and Strelka went into orbit for a flight of 500,000 miles. The container returned to Earth and the passengers quite unhurt. At the press conference, journalists learned that this experiment was a complete success.
Everybody in Columbia, Missouri knew the story. I mean, basically, anybody that read the newspaper, listened to the radio, or watched television, they knew about the dog and about my brother.
I think receiving Strelka was really a life-changing event for me. It's something that did have a profound impact on me. We were celebrities. Probably a few years later that I really started wanting to know more about where Strelka came from. That bloodline, I think, is very, very special. Till you start with Strelka, who was a stray dog, a mixed breed, nothing special, who becomes the hero of an empire through her space flight. Strelka was the first dog to re-enter Earth's orbit alive. That achievement was quite impressive, a matter of great national pride in terms of the accomplishments that each country had in the space race. And then she comes back and she has Pushinka with 5 other pups besides Pushinka. Pushinka becomes a very important political pawn at a very, very critical time in world history.
In June 1961, President Kennedy traveled to Vienna to meet with Chairman Nikita Khrushchev, at that time the leading power in the Soviet Union. It was, President Kennedy said later, a sobering experience. The language was blunt, the disagreement sharp over Berlin, Cuba, and nuclear testing.
The space pups that Strelka had been born just a few weeks prior to that summit conference, where the Kennedys and the Khrushchevs had dinner. Jackie mentioned the space pups and said, "Oh, you must give me one of those dogs." A few weeks later, the Soviet ambassador shows up at the White House with this dog as a gift of state. The White House and the Secret Service was very concerned that this was a spy tool. And so they took the dog over to Bethesda Naval Hospital and examined the dog and to be sure that there was no microphone in the dog. But it was after that that the dog was really accepted by the Kennedys and allowed to have free reign of the White House as the other animals did. It was a token of friendship between Khrushchev and the Kennedys. And then Pushinka basically has a litter of pups sired by one of the Kennedys. He called them pupniks because they were the descendants from Strelka, who was the first dog to come back in a Sputnik alive. Those 4 pups are scattered around the United States. They decided to give 2 of them away to members of the family. One went to the Lawford family. Peter Lawford was a Hollywood actor married to Patricia Kennedy, the president's sister. And the other dog was given to Luella Hennessy, who was the nurse for the Kennedy family. The other 2 they decided to give away to non-family members. That was where my story really began.
In 1963, my little brother had a little dog, and I think the dog's name was Midget. It was a small dog, and the dog was accidentally killed in a tragic event.
We were out playing baseball, and it was my turn to bat. I didn't realize that my dog was outside. I thought that she was inside. And she was behind me, and so when the ball was thrown to me to hit, she jumped up to get the ball right as I was swinging my bat. And instead of hitting the ball, I hit her in the head, and I killed her. I cried. I was really inconsolable for a week. And so it was a very, very sad week for me. It was about a week after that I was listening to Paul Harvey. He had a 15-minute broadcast, what's called a news and commentary. Paul Harvey announced that they had had a litter of pups at the White House. I don't know what they're going to do with all these dogs at the White House, but they just had 4 more pups.
So my brother said, I'd like to have one of their dogs. And my mother said, well, write Mrs. Kennedy a letter and tell her you'd like to have the dog and you would give it a good home. And my brother David and I said, oh, that you're an idiot. They're not going to give you a dog. You're nobody. And my mother says, ignore your brothers, write the letter. So he did.
I had no idea that there would be anybody else that would ask for a dog. But there were thousands of people that wrote letters asking for those dogs.
And Mrs. Kennedy told her secretary and her other staffers, she said, we got a lot of letters from people asking for one of these puppies, so go through those letters. And she said, pick me out 10 that you think are most deserving. So they did. And they brought her the 10 letters, and Mrs. Kennedy went over the letters, and she picked out 2 letters that she liked the best. And one of them happened to be my brother, and the other one was a young girl in Chicago by the name of Karen House. So she said, I want these 2 children to get 2 of the dogs.
The middle of August, and it was a Sunday morning, and I was getting ready for church, and the phone rang. Mom answered it, and she was talking to this person, and then she hung the phone up, and she said, Mark, that was the White House that called. They've decided that they would like to give you a dog.
It's like buying a lottery ticket. Do you really think you're going to win? No. But it's nice to dream, and I think his letter was part of a dream.
After I got Strelka, I wrote Mrs. Kennedy a thank you letter. Mrs. Kennedy wrote me back. So every year or 2, I would write her, and she would respond. Strelka was a hero of the entire empire. And the importance that Pushinka had, being a tool of foreign policy for the Soviets. Strelka was kind of the key to that line of hero blood. I was really interested in having Strelka to have pups. To see that line continue, because it was so special from a historical perspective, just to try and keep that history intact. And so we did.
Is there a possibility that Strelka's bloodline still exists in the United States? I think it's possible, but it would be a nice thought.